The government of Selangor withdrew from the Royal Commission proceedings this afternoon. I informed the Commission and I briefly stated the reasons for the withdrawal. Essentially, the main reasons were and are as follows. With the family having withdrawn from the proceedings, we don't know whether there's any value to this anymore. We also have the same concerns that the family has. In particular, we are concerned about the fact that the Attorney General has moved a revision in the Shah Alam High Court. Now, in that revision application, the Attorney General is basically taking a position. And from what Mr. Govind informed the Commission and has said elsewhere, Mr. Govind has been informed that the Attorney General is asking for a finding of suicide. Now, if that is the case, and there are pending judicial proceedings, then we question why there's a need for the RCI at this stage. It should be one or the other. Because ultimately, if the RCI comes to certain conclusions and maybe says certain people are guilty and asks the Attorney General to take action, but then the Attorney General is taking the position that it is suicide in the revision, that seems to us a little bit inconsistent. Not a little bit, very inconsistent. And we have been alerting the Commission to this from the very beginning, as the family has. So that's one of the concerns we have. So if we have to choose between one or the other, we cannot ignore the fact that there are court proceedings going on. And the court proceedings have legal force. Ultimately, the Commission can make recommendations, but the court will make a decision, and that decision will have some impact. So we cannot see how one can be reconciled with the other. So because the family also takes that view and the family withdrew, we also have that same concern. The second is this: the Attorney General has taken a position, as I've said. He also took a position in the inquest. And yet his officers or officers from the Attorney General's chambers are here to assist the Commission as conducting officers. We don't think this is very appropriate, because even though the commissioners themselves are supposed to be responsible for the activities of the Commission, they rely to some extent on the conducting officers. For example, the list of witnesses that was prepared, avenues to explore, these sorts of things will be suggested by the conducting officers. And we think that there is a conflict of interest here. So even though we are not saying anything about the three particular individuals who have been appointed, Mr. Amarjit, Tuan Awang and Ms. Lisa, we have nothing against them personally. They are from the Attorney General's chambers, and even though they may have been seconded for 3 months, it gives rise to an appearance of bias. We don't think this is the way the Commission should go, and the Commission should be mindful that if the whole country is watching this proceeding and ask the same questions that we are, then no matter what conclusions are ultimately arrived at, people will have their questions. So that's why we suggested to the Commission that they should not rely on these people. But the Commission took the position that it's okay because the three officers have assured them of their not being biased. But that doesn't address the question of apparent bias. Right? And of course, you all heard yesterday when the family said, give us an opportunity to go to the High Court to try and stay the proceedings so that we can test this issue in the High Court. The Commission said they were not prepared to wait. So that is the second concern. So, and we think it's a very serious concern which goes right to the heart of these matters. So for the third thing is, now the Commission has also said yesterday in its rulings as to how the Commission is to hear the matters, it is going to hear witnesses afresh. They are going to be called here and they're going to be examined. People can put questions to them, and the Commission even said that if we didn't have a chance to put certain questions at the inquest, we can put questions here. But again, that raises the question as to the value of the inquest. Why did we spend so many months going through the inquest where significant findings were made by the coroner, if we're just going to say no, none of that matters anymore, and we're just going to start again here? We also raised the question yesterday that certain witnesses may not be able to come or may not come. We don't know. For example, Dr. Ponte, we cannot guarantee that she's going to be in a position to come, and although I note that the Commission today had directed that they be requested, we cannot say for certain. So what happens if they can't come? Do we just ignore all the evidence that took place? Can we ignore everything that happened in the inquest? Well, the Commission says their terms are a bit wider, but whatever the case, they still have to look into how and why Teoh died, and that is something that the inquest had already considered. So the position that we take is that if the Commission is going to be the mechanism by which the people of Malaysia can be given confidence that the investigation was open and so on, then it should be the point of focus. There should be no revision, there should be nothing else. We should just focus here. And and then let's see how best to get to the truth. But so far the Commission seems to say that never mind, we'll just leave that aside. We are separate and distinct. We don't mind that the AG's people are here because don't worry, we will watch over them, all of that, all of which is maybe to some extent useful, but I don't know whether it goes to the actual issues. So for those reasons, it's with regret. Obviously the state government wants to assist. We have never taken a position to interfere with any investigation or obstruct it, but for reasons of principle, we have to focus on the revision, and we take the positions that we do. All right.
Has the AG's position been made clear that they have insisted that it's suicide? Is that the AG's position, or is it
well,
presumption?
I can only say this based on what was stated by Mr. Gobind Singh publicly as to what he was informed. Now he has said that on several occasions, and it's never been refuted, nor has there been any denial, as I understand it. Even in the commission proceedings in the last day or two, the statement was made again and again. We had no one standing up and saying that's not the position. So if that is not the case, then it's, I think, very incumbent upon the AG to say that it is not the case. He hasn't said it yet. And if it's not the case, then one questions what the use of the revision is, ultimately. Obviously, the AG is not happy with the open verdict and he wants a verdict. The verdict either is homicide or suicide, if he's not happy with the verdict. That's how I understand it. But I think it's for the AG to clarify that. But thus far, we can say that, yes, there is a pending revision and they are insisting on proceeding, even though there's the RCI. I note that the court today fixed the 23rd of May as the hearing date, but it doesn't say that it's not going to proceed. It's just going to wait out this in the event this can settle before April. Yeah.
So with the family pull out, boycotted, and you as well, the state government, has the Commission inquiry lost its credibility?
I can't say for what others will think of it, but I think, as we said earlier, that the fact that the family itself has chosen not to participate, I think, to some extent gives rise to questions about the legitimacy of continuing on with these proceedings. You know, I think ultimately, for Malaysia to be satisfied, the family must be seen as being happy with the way proceedings are going. Not to just suit its own convenience, but I don't think what the family has been asking for up to now is very unreasonable or you know, unfair expectations on the part of the family. You know, I think, as we've said, there are ways to address all these questions. As we pointed out in the Black Eye case, I think Mr. Karpal told the Commission earlier on that I believe Tan Sri Abu Talib was called back to leave the conducting officers, to bring in somebody from the outside. I think there are many ways in which this can be approached, you know, but the Commission has taken a position and it's continuing on, and you know, I wish it well and I hope it works out for the Commission, but we can't participate.
So the reason they said is because they have very tight 3 months to actually conclude, and the terms of reference is so wide.
Yeah, but I think ultimately we've seen instances in the past when commissions have taken more than the allotted 3 months, and there is provision for extensions to be given by His Majesty upon application, and it's been done before, you know. So I think ultimately the objective of the exercise must be given sufficient priority and should not be defeated by the urgency and the time frame alone. Although I agree, delaying it anymore would not be in the interest of any party. But you know, I mean, you think about it, there was a site visit today, but that office is no longer the office of the MACC or even the office that was used when this event happened, you know. So if they're supposed to be doing fact-finding, how are they supposed to do it? Which then raises questions as to what are they going to do with that evidence that has already been taken before the other inquest, you know, the inquest proceedings. So, I mean, there are very, very big questions that need to be thought through, and the state government is concerned that not insufficient attention is being paid to these issues, and ultimately we don't want to be seen to be in conflict with the judicial proceedings. Some clear position has to be taken on that, and we are left in this very difficult position to try and balance these competing interests. I think that's, and of course with the family withdrawing, I mean that's a big question mark, because all of this is actually about Teoh Beng Hock. Yeah.
So basically you would rather have the CI continue after the by the AG?
No, the AG is a revision. Yeah, I mean, my position is, I mean, if there's an RCI, there should be no revision. If there's a revision, then what's the use of the RCI? That has to be clarified. And I think from the outset, from the very beginning, even before the inquest, the suggestion was that there be an RCI and not an inquest, because of the nature of the events and the nature of the stakeholders involved a government-related agency, although MACC is independent, and so on and so forth. Everyone thought from that point there should be an RCI. But now that they've gone through the inquest, do we just abandon that and ignore it? We can't. But thus far, nothing satisfactory has been said about that. It seems to be just, let's avoid that and just look at it separate and distinct. But how do you do that? People have come to court on testimony and given evidence. They've been cross-examined. They've made certain admissions. They've said certain things. So how do you ignore all of that? But that's just my view. Ultimately, the reasons I've explained before are the reasons that the state has for withdrawing. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Apa yang berlaku bila kamu sampai di situ? Selepas lihat ayat, adakah pengempungan tempat dibuat oleh pihak polis? Setelah saya sampai, saya dapat dua anggota polis bertugas telah memantau tempat kejadian, dan selepas itu saya telah ambil alih tempat kejadian dan saya minta